Hello and welcome to Stylist Chats with Creatives. Today on the podcast, I've got Jen Rich. Jen is a food photographer and stylist and an author as well. Hello, Jen.
Hi.
How are you doing? You're right.
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for agreeing to come on. I'll fill the listeners in a little bit. We were just saying then before we clicked record that we think we met over a decade ago.
Yeah, it's got to be 13. No, yeah, probably more 10, 11.
Yeah, and we met through a couple of mutual friends, and then I think you moved to Huntingdon, I moved up north, and then we've kind of stayed in touch a little bit, kind of keeping an eye on what each other's doing, see where we're going off. And then, yeah, I've just seen your new book as well, which looks amazing.
Thank you. It's very exciting.
How long did that take to come to fruition?
So I think I pitched it in January and we signed the deal in the May, and then I had to submit the final manuscript by August.
Oh, okay.
Which wasn't very long.
Yeah.
I also bought a house in that time.
Oh, jeez.
And my final due date was literally the week I moved house. And obviously it wasn't just a case of like sitting at my laptop writing it. I was sewing everything.
Yeah.
So my husband was just packing the house around me, and I just had my table and my sewing machine and was just going at it until it all got done. And then I think it finally went to print just before Christmas. And then it came out last Thursday.
Amazing.
So all in all, I think it was actually a year to the day that it was published to when we fully agreed the contract.
Yeah.
Because it was also the day we got our offer accepted on the house.
Amazing.
So it was, and I was on a shoot. I was shooting a cookbook, and during that day we had to do the whole final offers thing and get our mortgage in principle and all this stuff. And it was a chocolate book, and I had the food stylist drizzling melted chocolate and me shooting. And then I had my mortgage advisor on the phone telling me what paperwork he needed. And I was just guiding Kathy of where to drizzle this chocolate. My assistant was downloading all my bank statements to the mortgage advisor. It was bonkers. But it was funny because that was the second book of the author, and the first one during the shoot I got married, and then the second one I bought a house. So we're just waiting for book 3 and what big life event I'm going to coincide with it, because it always seems to be something going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good. It was a good job, that one.
I do feel like when you're freelance as well, and like you say, you're on the phone to the mortgage advisor or whatever. I had similar when we were buying this house, and I was on set. I think I had kids and dogs on set. And then some surveyor rang me and was like, "Can I rip your floorboards up in your house?" And I just ripped into him. And I was like, absolutely fucking not. If you put them back, yeah, but no, basically. And he was giving it jip. And I was like, look, I have to go. I've got kids and a dog on set. What you're telling me isn't important.
Yeah.
And then you're stressed and you've got an art director in your ear going oh, you need to do this. And then I'm like, the mortgage. And just flapping around.
Exactly. Yeah, I think we'd all packed up. It was the last day. We were all going out the door, and I had the call from the estate agent to say that our offer had been accepted literally as we were all leaving. So it was just such a nice end to it all, because I feel like they'd all been on this journey with me over 3 days because it all went to sealed bids.
Oh wow.
And it was just it was stressful but we're here now. I'm in the house, so it's all good. It all worked out.
Yeah, I feel you. I got so stressed out. Nath was on nights as well at the time, so he could only deal with a certain amount of stuff, and because he's driving now for a living, so he couldn't send emails and stuff. And I put my very fierce businesswoman hat on. And I'm slightly ashamed to say, but I emailed every solicitor in the chain and was just who's the problem? And my solicitor, in a polite way, but I was like, look, come on. And my solicitor emailed me back privately and was just like, I have never had a client message the whole chain.
I love it. It's just, oh yeah, I won't go into it. It's just frustrating. Like,
Yeah.
that, like, first bit of getting your offer approved and everything is so manic and everything's got to happen immediately.
Yeah.
And then it's just like tumbleweed.
Yeah.
For like 4 months. And then they're like, okay, you can move now.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
I don't wish to do it again anytime soon.
No,
I will die in this house.
Yeah.
I just don't want to move again.
We're having the same conversation because I said the same to Nath. I was like, I'm getting a stair lift before we move. Like, I am not leaving this house. It's horrendous. Totally. And
yeah,
like, I don't know, the market was different. Like, it was different from when we bought our first house, and everyone was kind of working up to the asking price, whereas this, we were getting outbid by like 50 grand. And you know, you're like, where have these people found this money? How have, like,
yeah.
Where is?
Well, I mean, we kind of went, because we super lucked out in that the interest rates went up the day before we got our day after we got our mortgage approved. Sorry,
oh my
we literally
God.
just got in there. And then also our move date got put back a week, which meant that was when Liz Truss had her little dalliance with the being Prime Minister, and she brought in the stamp duty holiday again. So we literally just got in there because we had our move date moved back. So we were actually so lucky along the way. We did end up spending more money than we should have done.
Same.
But it was just a case of like, well, this is the only house we viewed. The only offer we put on, we literally just like, yeah, we want this house.
Yeah.
And it worked out.
So yeah. Oh.
It's good.
Yeah.
And now I've got this cool sewing room.
Nice.
I say cool. It's probably super geeky, but I love it.
No, I think there is something to be said for having like a room to do a hobby in. And amazing. It's just so nice because also you can leave your projects out on the floor and shut the door and you're good to go. Yeah, exactly like that. And, you know, you don't have to worry about the dog getting in there or someone going and disturbing it or what have you.
Totally, yeah. And it's just nice because then you can just do a little bit here and there and you haven't, got to pack it all away for dinner or anything like that. So I'm a very messy creator whilst I'm in it. It's like an absolute bomb. And then once I finish the project, I'll put it all back together and everything's got its little place. And it's my geeky happy place. Sorry.
That's all right. I'm falling off the sewing machine.
So it's definitely, I feel very lucky to have this space in the house and have somewhere that I can just do my thing. Definitely.
Yeah.
It would have been nice to have this space when I wrote the book. It literally happened as I submitted it, but I think it's kind of good that I didn't though, because I don't want people, the whole point of the book was making it approachable to people, because when I started making my own clothes and things like that, everyone would always go, oh my God, you made your jeans. Like, I could never do that. And actually you could, like, it's not that hard. I didn't have a really fancy sewing machine, didn't have an overlocker. I had the bare essentials really. And I made everything in the book and more. And it's just, I kind of wanted to make it not this like elite thing where you have to have been sewing for 15 years and, grown up with it and stuff. I literally started sewing 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Which is a massive imposter syndrome thing of thinking like people would be like, why the hell are you writing a book? You don't know what you're talking about. But actually I did mention it and like there was a big part of me, I said to my husband, like, I can't tell people I've only been doing it for this long, like they'll think I'm a total fraud. And he went, no, I think it's good because it shows that you can pick it up quickly.
Yeah.
It's not something that's going to take you 10 years to like be able to sew a cushion cover. Like, obviously it is something good in that you're always learning and you kind of can never get to the end of sewing, if you know what I mean. Like, there's always something more you can do. So, but I think once you've got those essential skills, you're flying. So yeah, hopefully people don't think I'm an utter fraud, because I can legit do it.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think, yeah, a lot of books and things like that are written by people who have rightly got years and years of experience. But I think sometimes that can be intimidating if you think, well, I'm 40 and I'm only just starting it. Like, what's the point, kind of thing? Or
Yeah.
so yeah, and also a lot of the books in that kind of genre were quite, not old fashioned, but I feel like they didn't quite appeal to like modern makers, for want
Yeah.
of a better term. Like, just people like me. Like, the projects that were in them, I didn't really want to make. So I kind of wanted to do a book of things that are actually useful or attractive, or
Yeah.
you would want to have in your house or gift to a friend and things like that. So hopefully I've achieved that.
Yeah, I saw there was like a picture of an eye mask and like some other cool bits. And actually, you saying I've got some sewing books that are a bit like how to make pajama bottoms, which are good, but there's no like kind of quirky, like how to make a makeup bag, how to like make something like you say for friends, or like something that's more seems more attainable, because sewing trousers seems really scary to me.
Yeah.
But
I mean, pajama bottoms are okay because you don't have to like shape them too much. I mean, I'm literally currently sat here trying to do a jumpsuit, and that is super hard because my top half is like 3 sizes different to my bottom half. And yeah, my waist is considerably smaller than my hips, and so trying to fit a jumpsuit in a single thing is proving to be somewhat tricky. But that's the great thing about sewing, that like if it goes wrong, just unpick it. Like, you can just do it again. Like,
yeah,
to a point. Obviously, if you cut it out, you're a bit stuck. But like, and also you can do it quite cheaply, especially if you're practicing early on. Like, you can use old bed sheets, or even buying, like in the book, I bought a skirt from a charity shop that was about size 18 or something, and I think I made like 5 or 6 projects from the book out of that skirt.
oh, that's cool.
So there's ways of, if you look at things as the fabric rather than as the garment or as the blanket or blah blah blah, you can get some bargains. So, because that was another thing as well, the sustainability of it.
Yeah,
Because actually sewing your own clothes, it ain't a lot cheaper than buying
yeah,
it. Like, people think, oh, you must save so much money, but it's fast fashion means that you can buy a ready-made pair of jeans for a quarter of the cost of making them yourself, which just shows you everything that's wrong with the fast fashion industry
yeah,
anyway. But literally the reason I started sewing was because I wanted to make a pair of jeans that fit me.
hmm,
Because, for aforementioned the different size ratios of my body, I can never find a pair of ready-to-wear jeans that fit me.
yeah,
And so now I can make my own. And yes, they probably cost, well, no, they're probably like an average, pair of jeans price, 40 quid or something, but they fit me perfectly.
yeah,
And I will continue to wear them until they fall apart. And then I'll probably have the skills to repair them.
yeah,
So it's just, yeah, when you start making your own clothes, it really, really highlights how bonkers the fashion industry is.
oh
And that,
yeah,
someone has designed it, made it, shipped it, put it in a shop for less than the fabric cost per meter. Like, someone isn't being treated well in
yeah,
that process. So yeah, I didn't want to kind of encourage just mass consumption of buying loads of new fabric and stuff like that. Like, a lot of the projects can be done with quite small bits of fabric, can be done with like offcuts from bigger projects, or you can buy secondhand and upcycle and things like that. So, but fabric buying is a whole hobby in itself. I can't deny that.
yeah. It's my friend sews quite a lot as well, and she'll take me into one of the shops in Manchester, and she's like, "Oh, what do you think to this? What do you think to this?" And I'm looking at it, I'm like, "It stretches 4 different ways." I'm like, "How?" I can't get my head around how she'll come into work like 2 days later and be like, "What do you think to my top?" And it's like a racer back top, and I'm like, How
Yeah.
I don't understand how your brain works. How is that made? How have you made that?
Yeah. But then that's the thing, I think as soon as you actually like see a pattern and like, yeah, I just think everyone can do it. Like
Yeah.
it's not as scary as it seems. And I know people like think that they're maybe not creative or they're not skilled in that kind of thing. But I really do think that anyone, given, you know, the time and inclination to do it, can learn to do it.
Yeah.
I know not everyone's going to want to. I appreciate this is a niche hobby, but I just, not necessarily just sewing, but I think just crafting and making things with your hands and just having time away from screens, away from your job, your kids, you know, whatever it is, to have something you can just completely switch off and focus on that.
Yeah.
Personally, for me, it is massively beneficial to my mental health. Because as much as I try, if I can't think about anything else, you know, while I'm working on a project, because it does take a lot of concentration. So even, yeah, just blocking, not even trying to think about not thinking about the stressful
Yeah.
thing, you know what I mean? You know, come away after a couple of hours and be like, actually, yeah, I feel all right. Or it gives you that space to have a perspective of, okay, that thing I was worrying about, really, it's fine. Like it's not worth the stress. Let it go, whatever. So for me, it's just a way to switch off totally.
Yeah.
But then I made it my job, and that confused things a little bit.
But I do think you're right. As a freelancer as well, it is difficult to step away from your phone and appreciate your downtime or go and find a different hobby because you're like, shit, what if someone texts me? What if someone rings me? What, you know, and reality is people can wait. Like,
Right. I said this to my husband the other day because he works for a tech company, and he'll start work at like 6 in the morning, so he just wakes up really early. And we'll go out for a dog walk about 9, and we'll get in the door, and he'll run upstairs and be like, I just need to check if anyone's emailed me. And I'm like, you need to chill, because those people, you've been out for half an hour. Like, even if they have emailed you, they can wait. Like, and I think with freelance especially, that's the thing of like, you feel like you've got to constantly reply.
yeah,
Like I was replying to my publisher at 9 o'clock last night, and actually there's no need for that. She's not going to check it until this morning. And when you think about it, actually the person you're emailing, they probably won't reply to you for 2 days.
yeah,
So, you know, yeah, I always think there's a rush on my side, but actually then I'll probably wait a week to hear back. So
yeah,
I'm trying to just be a bit more like zen about stuff.
yeah, yeah,
Just trying not to worry, because I'm a natural worrier,
yeah.
like through and through. Whereas my husband is the absolute opposite. So I have to just try and let him calm me down.
It sounds
Give me perspective.
it sounds similar. Like Nath will go like, you know, it's like this time of year when people's budgets coming in, you're quiet. I mean, this year's unusually quiet, like we spoke about before we recorded. But like it's Nath will just be like, chill out. Are you paying all your bills? Like, yeah, then don't worry. What are you worrying for? Whereas
And Nick literally says that to me, like, I'll be like, oh, I've got nothing booked in for May. And he'll be like, you say that every month?
yeah,
Like, literally every month you say this, that you've got no work on, and then you get work on. So, like, he stops listening to me now. He's like, I'm
yeah,
not even going to entertain this conversation
yeah,
because it's just void.
yeah, yeah,
So I do appreciate him bringing me back down to earth, but I just think it's the freelance fear that everyone has, because like we were saying before, as soon as you complete a job, you're effectively unemployed again.
yeah.
And I think generally at my core, I shouldn't be a freelancer. I need the stability that I'm going to be paid each month. So I'm sort of in this limbo of wanting the financial security, but also not fathoming being able to do a 9 to 5
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah,
So I did say to you before, like, just trying to take a more zen approach of appreciating the downtime, because actually, like I say, my husband does, you know, very office hours, 9 to 5, 5 days a week. And actually my job means that I can have a Wednesday off, or, you know, some weeks I literally might not work all week. Mick would love it if he just got told, oh, you've got a week off.
Yeah.
And actually, and then, you know, after that, I'll have a busy couple of weeks and it'll all even out. So I just kind of, I need to have more trust in that things generally work out. Like we had COVID, like that literally shut down the whole industry and we got through that.
Yeah.
So it's sort of, yeah, I'm trying to just be like, the universe will figure it out.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same.
I really hope it's the case.
Yeah. I'm the same. I'm like, universe, just give me some nice work, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because like at the end of the day, you can't push people's budgets if they haven't got a budget there. Like,
No.
you know, and I get it a lot. People go, oh, well, I can style that. And I think, can you though? Can you?
Yeah, you can, but it's not going to look the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. It's like trusting stuff and also then like putting in the time of emailing clients and like building that rapport with clients, which doesn't really come into your physical day that you charge for at work and like all that kind of thing. And also setting boundaries, which is what I've done a lot this year. You know, with people cancelling last minute, I get that, you know, stuff changes, but like, I think you just have to put those boundaries in. And likewise, similar probably to you, I was emailing on LinkedIn at 10 o'clock at night. What am I doing on LinkedIn at 10 o'clock at night? Do you know what I mean? So I've like started kind of just saying my office hours as such in like air quotes, like 8 till 6. So if somebody has someone calling sick, I'll answer the phone and I'll go in, but I'm not going to look at call sheets past 6 o'clock in the evening or, you know, because otherwise it infiltrates into your personal life and then you can't go and do these nice hobbies that you want to do because you can't switch off.
And also like I never sleep the night before a shoot.
Yeah.
I just don't as much. And I will lay there at 2 o'clock and go, right, if I fall asleep now, I'll have 4 hours sleep and then I'll have 3 hours. And like, I just, as much as I know it's a complete waste of energy and it's only going to ruin my day, I cannot just relax and go to sleep. And it infuriates me, infuriates my husband, but that's just the way it is. But yeah, if you're looking at a call sheet at 9 o'clock or right before you go to bed or whatever, that is on your brain.
Yeah.
So you do need a cut off. And again, I can't stop talking about Mick, but he is so good in that at 5 o'clock he will shut his laptop, and he doesn't have a smartphone. He has essentially a Nokia 3210.
Amazing.
And he probably has about 10 people's phone numbers. Like if he has spoken to someone in about 6 months, he'll just delete them.
Amazing.
Whereas I've got people from, you know, 25 years ago that I haven't spoken to since school or something. They're still on my phone. But he physically can't get his emails on his phone. So until he checks into his laptop in the morning, he doesn't think about work. We go on holiday, he doesn't, you know, think about it at all. Whereas I'll still check my email on holiday.
Yeah.
There's no point because I'm not gonna, like, I can't do the job until I come back. Like I know it's stupid, but it's just that whole freelance mindset of like, you've just got to say yes all the time.
Yeah.
But I think I'm slowly starting to realise that actually sometimes saying no is just important.
Yeah.
Like saying no to the right things, because there are times I've taken on jobs that maybe weren't the right job for me, or at a time where I couldn't, like there was too many big jobs going on or something and I couldn't focus properly on them, and writing a book whilst moving house, you know, those kind of things, and where actually putting those boundaries in and going, no, actually I know you want it by the end of the month, but I can't do it until next month or whatever. And just, I think again that's a bit more of a confidence thing of like just hoping that they'll say, okay, well we want you, so yeah, we'll wait.
Yeah.
I think a lot of my last 10 years I've just kind of been like, well, if I don't agree to their, you know, immediate terms, they'll just go and find someone else.
Yeah.
And actually if that is the case, they're going to do that anyway. Like it's kind of, again, zen. Let things just sort, like I guess I'm just trying to let go of like the things I can't control.
Yeah.
I can't control their budget. You know, if they've only got X amount of money and that doesn't cover what they want to do, I can't magic up more money for them. So, what will be will be. Either they, change their requirements or it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But it's kind of not my responsibility to sort of reduce my fee or become less because they can't afford what they want. Did that make any sense at all?
Yeah.
It's really babbly.
No, it made sense.
So, yeah, just I've used the analogy before, but yeah, you wouldn't go to Tesco with £10 and want 10 things and you get to the checkout or you buy 20 things and you've only got £10 and they you wouldn't go and bargain that, oh, well, I still want the 20 things even though I can only afford 10 of them.
Yeah.
You would choose the most important 10 and you would buy them. So I think if a client has only got a certain budget and that isn't enough to cover what you think it is worth, then I think it's your job as the creative to kind of guide them as to what their money can afford. And often it will be that they've just added on 5 shots that they think, oh, that'd be nice to have. We might use it at some point, and actually they probably won't. So, yeah, I think I finally got to a point where I understand more the value of what I'm creating and the immediate value they gain from it.
Yeah.
So say if they're using the image for advertising, they're directly making money from it. So you kind of have to just be brutal and be like, well, if you want it, you've got to pay for it.
Yeah.
And I'm probably sounding like I'm way more confident than I am. That's it's a very new realization. But just, yeah, there's so many moving parts that you cannot control. So you just, I think, have to be quite confident in the things that you can, know your worth, know what you're capable of, and just, yeah.
I do wonder if knowing your worth actually comes from age and being in the industry for a long time as well. Because much like yourself, we've been in the industry, a decade?
Yeah.
If not longer.
Yeah, 10 years this year, actually.
Yeah. And
I graduated 10 years ago, yeah.
And I think you do get confident. And also, like, I've got a little analogy. I put my confident cape on. So I'm like, right, okay, well, I'm going to do this and this. And sometimes probably I'm a bit too brutally honest. Like, it probably doesn't do me any favors sometimes, but also people know where they stand when they're with me.
Yeah.
So it swings and roundabouts, isn't it? But I agree with you. I think confidence, sometimes even just putting that confident cape on, having that almost like fake confidence almost gives you more confidence to say, actually, these are my boundaries. This is what you can actually get. And like you, often I'll go to a job, and I had it maybe back in the last year, where somebody was like, oh, and the buyers have said, can we have this and this and this? And I said, right, let's just sit for a second because we've only got 2 days. What's your actual priority? What actually needs shooting? Because otherwise I'm concerned that we're not going to fit it all in. And she was like, well, actually, this can wait. They probably wouldn't use that. And it's just making people realize that they also have control to say no, and that stuff can wait.
I'll generally make whatever the brief is, have a priority list of like what is absolutely essential we get. Obviously, all of it needs to be shot, ideally, but if something happens in the day, which shot can go, or which can be done at a later date, because it does help to just focus the client as well, because sometimes if they're not super experienced in commissioning photography or whatever, it is just they want as much as they can get, obviously, and also, again, if they've not done a shoot before, they might not appreciate how long certain things take. So say if you want to get a splash of something dropping into water or whatever, that's not a one-shot wonder. Well, sometimes it's a one-shot wonder and everyone looks around like jaws in the ground, like, how did that happen? But that's really rare. So it could take half a day to get that one shot, and then there's that balance of you not sounding like a total negative Nancy, being like, we'll never do that in a day. But then you've also got to manage expectations of, actually, no, that could take us 5 hours to get that shot, and then another 10 hours in retouch. So Yeah, I think that's actually a big part of the job of just like managing expectations and yeah, when people want things that are wildly out of season.
Yeah. Oh,
And to a point, yeah, you can get a turkey in July, but also there's just some things that you cannot get.
yeah.
And sorry, that was my chair.
You're right.
Creaky chair. um yeah, so I think, yeah, a big bit is managing expectations,
Yeah.
because otherwise you're the one that ends up looking bad.
Yeah, that's it.
If you oversell it, then you're the one generally that ends up looking like you've messed it up completely,
Yeah.
when actually it wasn't really achievable. I've had to really be like that, because now I predominantly work on my own, actually. I generally do the photography and the styling, so I do have to be very realistic in how much I can achieve in a day, because it's not like on a normal set where a stylist can be prepping the next shot whilst I'm doing one. Like, I literally have to do it all step by step myself. So yeah, I probably can't get as many done as if we had a full team in a day, but equally they're only paying for me, they're not paying for a team of three.
Yeah.
So it kind of all balances out. But yeah, that's actually become my normal way of working now.
Yeah.
I rarely work in a team. I've become a real hermit.
Do you think you were shooting a bit at home before in your home
Yeah.
studio? So has that just has COVID made you shoot more at home because you're able to get more, like, not more done necessarily, but like you're able to just zone in on it and get it done? Or, I've kind of, my brain's just gone foggy.
Yeah, I mean, COVID definitely changed the way I worked. Previous to COVID, I did do some shoots at home, but it would be a fairly even mix of, going into London or wherever to do location shoots. But then obviously COVID hit and everything shut down and you couldn't use a studio. And actually, I have to admit, COVID was very kind to me, because I could offer a service where I did it all myself, all in house, and they could approve it all remotely. And it was just a sort of a little package I could offer. So I had some of my busiest times during COVID, which I know is a super fortunate, position to be in. And so many people in the creative industry that I know really, really struggled in that time. But it did reshape the way I work. And now 90%, if not more, of my jobs I do at home on my own. And I just do it as a sole kind of little unit. And it really works for me. I like it. I like being at home.
Yeah.
And actually, it cuts out 4 hours of traveling in my day, which I'm more than happy to do if that is needed. But often, so much of the time, like, I'll chat with the client and I'm like, well, actually, I could just do this at home.
Yeah.
And it would save, like, it's just so much, it's more time efficient, cost efficient. Like, it's just, I'm way less stressed at doing it. And, all my stuff is here. I've not got to think about, right, what props might we need? And, spending the day before packing them all up and, making sure I've got everything and prepping on my kit. Like, if I'm shooting at home, it's just all here. And if the brief changes halfway through the shoot and the client decides they want to go with a different colour scheme or, whatever happens, I've got it all here. And it's just worked really well for me thus far. And clients seem happy with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm fortunate that I've got the space in which to do it and I can. I mean, moving into this house was a godsend, because in my previous place, the spare room was my sewing room, my office, my prop house, my kit room. Everything was in the spare room.
Oh man.
So there was just the double bed in the corner, and then there was just bookshelves full of plates and cups, and like when you walked on the floor it all jingled and like the bookcases moved, and it was just the least zen place for someone to stay over because it was just like in a junk shop. Whereas now, it was actually the thing that sold the house to me. There's like an airing cupboard in the hallway. That's a double door cupboard, and it's really deep. Like, you could happily like sit down cross-legged in it and have lots of room, kind of thing. And so I've put all shelves in there, and I can fit all of my props in the
Oh,
cupboard and shut the door. And it's just, it's it's one of my proudest achievements. I built those shelves myself with my friend, and I just I realize, like, I'm naturally quite a messy person, but tidying things up makes me feel really good. If that
yeah,
makes sense. Like, once they're away, I feel so much better about it. So actually having the space to be able to store things away is just so much nicer. And like at the end of a shoot day, have somewhere to put everything back. It's not just there's a stack of prop plates in the kitchen for the next 3 weeks because I can't figure out where I'm going to put them. So yeah, it's moving to this house has made work life a lot easier.
yeah,
And I've definitely been able to take on like bigger jobs, and I guess more complex jobs that need various moving parts and whatnot. But yeah, that's basically, yeah, that's my way of working now, really. I
yeah,
think I did that book job might have been so last May. I think that was the last job I did with the team. Like as such, I've done the odd day shoot, where it's been me, my assistant, and the client, but that's as far as the team goes.
yeah.
There wasn't extra stylists or anything, and they were just day shoots. So the biggest like 3 week job I've done was a year ago in
Wow.
London. So I'm quite happily just
Yeah,
plodding along at home. But I keep I guess I do myself a disservice because I just sort of say, oh, I just do it from home. But I'm still doing the same job as if I were in a studio somewhere. It's just saving someone 500 quid hiring it.
yeah,
So
that's true.
it's, it's all the same work at the end of the day. I've never been very good at like talking about what I do, self promotion or anything. I just get very British and like, oh no, I'm rubbish really. So trying to do this book promotion has been awful because I'm just like, oh no, don't worry, it's just silly. So yeah, I'm trying to be more like, well, a bit less British, I guess.
Yeah. I think also that's a creative thing though, because we often have an awful lot of interests. Because I feel like most creatives I know don't just have one creative
Yeah,
interest. And we're like, our brains are pinging off all the time. And then we're like, oh, don't worry, that's just a hobby. Like,
yeah, yeah,
but it's not, it's a passion. It's a,
yeah,
it's an added income or whatever. And yeah, you're like, oh, well, it's just that. Oh, nothing to worry about. Oh, I'm
yeah.
blushing
No
now.
biggie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, like, we need to take these compliments and, like, be like, oh, massage our ego with them and be like, oh, yeah, that's really nice that someone's complimented me.
Yeah, and I think you kind of need to step away sometimes and think like if that was your friend telling you about that, you'd be like proper picking them up. Like
Yeah.
for so long since the books come out, I've become a bit better at. I think now I've seen it's a physical book, and I know I'm happy with it. Like I used to have so many dreams that they printed it like using other photography or like they completely changed the whole design of it. I had so many like stress nightmares before it. Now I know that it's how it should be. I've become a lot more relaxed about it, and I feel like I can talk about it confidently. But in all the run up, because obviously I'd sat on this for like a year knowing that it was happening, but I couldn't tell anyone. Well, just
Yeah.
let people know, but generally I couldn't really talk about it. And so I felt really like, and I think because I did it all myself at home, it wasn't, I didn't go to a studio and there was a photographer taking the pic. Like it didn't feel, I guess, professional,
Yeah.
which sounds bad, but it felt like it was just a little home hobby I was doing. And so I felt quite embarrassed to talk about it. Like, oh, it's just something silly I'm doing at home. Like, everyone will think I'm a bit of a loser. And then I used to speak to friends about it. And I've got this one friend, Marine, who's just an absolute gem. And she was just like, babes, you've written a book. Like,
Yeah.
this is really cool. Like, this is amazing. Like, well done. Like, you came up with this idea and you pitched it and you've made it happen. And like, this is your passion and you've done it. And I kind of stepped away and I was like, you know what? If she was telling me she'd done that, I'd be like, why are you embarrassed? Like, this is awesome. So I think you do need to step away sometimes and think, like, actually, if this was your friend, you'd be hyping her up big time.
Yeah.
But I still feel like I'm being cocky. Say that I'm proud of what I've done. I'm never ever proud of what I've done, but I'm quite proud of this book, actually. It's yeah. But I think it was just scary because it is so me. Like, it is my absolute passion. I wrote it, I designed it, I made the projects, I shot it. Like, it's so much of me is in the book that I think I'm scared to talk about it because I'm petrified that people are just going to say it's rubbish.
Yeah, and I suppose because there's so much of you in the book, you might feel that it's a reflection on you, but actually it's their interpretation of the book, not an interpretation of you.
That's the thing. It is so personal to me that, I mean, I've had to vow to myself that I won't read Amazon reviews, because this is the other funny thing as well, actually. I can talk to people I know in real life about it quite confidently. And, like, I know that the people that love me will support me. And, you know, even if they think it's rubbish, they'll tell me it's good. And I can fairly confidently talk to complete strangers about it. But it's people, like, that I went to school with that I don't really speak to anymore, but are on my sort of peripheral. Don't really go on Facebook anymore, but, you know, the sort of people you kind of know what's going on in their lives, but you don't speak to them. It's those people that I think will be judging me, which I know is ridiculous because they're not in my life. Like, it doesn't affect me whether they like it or not. It's, you know, it's out of my control. But weirdly, those are the people I feel the pressure about. So yeah, it's an odd one, but as much as, like you say, if someone doesn't like the book, they're not saying they don't like me. They're not my people. They're not my audience, and that's fine. Not everyone is going to be. But as much as I know that, I know I'll cry. If someone leaves a really bad review, I will cry. I will dwell on it for 3 weeks until my husband is just like, stop. Like, you know, this is ridiculous. But that's just who I am. And I know I'll never be able to completely, like, detach myself from it because it is it was my dream to do that. So to write that book. So I can't ever really, like, I can't be cool about it, basically. I cannot be cool about it. It's dead exciting, but it's really, really scary. So, just rolling with it, trying to pretend I feel cool about it.
I understand, though, because I spent 6 months researching how to start a podcast. And before that, maybe like maybe it took me a year almost to get it going. And it was kind of like a similar thing. Like, it's currently a passion project because I really love finding out how people have got to where they are. But I also don't look at reviews. So I've seen one that my very kind friend wrote, and like on Apple or something, so I can see all the statistics. And I was like, oh my God, did you write this? And he wrote it like 6 weeks ago. I just like not looked because I'm like, you kind of have to, like you say, kind of put that shield up and just be like, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. And that's fine.
Yeah.
But also I know I'd be like you, I'd be like crying in the corner if somebody was like, her voice is so bloody annoying.
I think that's because, in a similar way to your podcast thing, I've got this little thing in the back of my mind where I'd quite like to do a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
But equally hate being on camera. So that's a little bit of a stumbling block. But I've actually, since the whole book promo thing, I've tried to be more on, like, Instagram stories and having my face on reels and stuff, because I used to I just didn't show my face at all. But again, I don't feel cringy doing it to my general Instagram followers. Few as they are. But I know, like, especially on my sewing, because I have like a sewing account that was secret for so long, I didn't tell anyone about it, and I only followed sewing people, and only sewing people that didn't know me in real life followed me, and it was my little happy place. But I know on there that anyone following me is interested in sewing.
Yeah.
So they are interested in what I'm saying. Whereas if I put that on my general work one, everyone would be like, what are you talking about? Like,
Yeah.
loser, skip kind of thing. Whereas actually, I've got to say, I have a funny relationship with Instagram. Like, my work one generally brings me more negativity than positivity a lot of the time, depending on what frame of mind I'm in. Whereas the sewing one, the whole community is so lovely and there's just no negativity at all.
Yeah.
And like the captions of a post will be, you know, what pattern they've sewn, what alterations they made, any tips on it. Like it's already informative and everyone is just everyone's hype girl, like you're just like, oh my god, that looks amazing, or you nailed that fit. Like
Yeah,
all these
yeah,
like
yeah.
niche things, but everyone's just really passionate about the same thing, so it's a really nice community. So on there I don't feel so self-conscious about it because I know that my audience are actually interested in listening about it, whereas I feel if I just talk random nonsense on my quotes professional Instagram, my normal like work one, I feel really cringy about it.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like the sewing one's almost a persona or something. I don't know. Or maybe that's just the real me. And my other one is the persona, trying to be a professional. And actually, I'm just a total craft geek that just wants to talk about it and to anyone that will listen. But yeah, like the YouTube thing, I'd always put off like, no one's going to want to hear me just ramble. But I watch videos of people rambling about stuff. Like Mick calls them my sock drawer girls because like he'll overhear, you know, when people rearrange their wardrobes and stuff like that, or their makeup bags. I watch all sorts of nonsense like that, and he'll be like, "Oh God, they rearranging their sock drawer again." And like, he just thinks they're silly, but he'll watch one that's about cars that he'll never own, or
Yeah.
he's really obsessed with cruise ships. Like he wants to do those luxury like 100-night cruise. So he'll watch endless videos about these cruise ships. And I'm like, if you break that down, that's a really geeky video to make. But there's an audience for it.
Yeah.
So part of me thinks maybe that's the way to go. But then a big part of me is like, no, then you'll have to be on camera.
I do think it's scary, but like you, I watch I watch this guy who goes round and tours multi-million-pound houses. We watch one host actually who's got about 20 channels, and that can be anything from, I think one's called like biographics and then geographics, and like we watch
Mhm.
all of his. And then Nath has been watching stuff on Westminster Abbey. Like just he's like, oh yeah,
There's an audience for everything. I mean, you've got to
yeah,
say, there really is. I think I'm just enjoying that. Like I say, the COVID years were really good to me work wise in that I managed to stay busy. But I think the reason the whole book came about was I got sort of 2 years of solely working at home by myself. And I don't know how you feel about it, but like on a job, you bounce off each other, and if you're having a bit of a doubt, like you're knackered or you know you're just not having a great day, someone else can be like, oh, how about we try this? Or you know, if you've just been staring at something for 3 hours and you're like, I don't know how we're going to do this, you just need someone else to like chip in and help that creative process. Whereas I had 2 years of just dealing with all that myself, and I felt it all become really like formulaic, and I was just sort of shooting the same kind of things with the same props, trying to make the same food look different. And I love food, and I think I'll always work in that industry, and I do love it. But I got to a point where I felt I needed something else
yeah,
to kind of feed my soul. And it had food used to be my hobby and cooking and baking and stuff, and now it is very much my job. So I felt like I needed something that was a hobby again, but then I made it my job. But it's only partly I've
yeah,
done that now, so that's the job bit out of the way. But it was utterly the dream job in that I literally convinced someone to pay me to do my hobby. As a result, so it was a lot of work, I've got to say, but it, yeah, I still can't quite believe that's all happened actually.
yeah.
Um, but But again, it was something, it sat on my computer for ages as a draft, like not daring to tell anyone about it.
Yeah.
And then I shot this woman, Sophie. She does like, well, she used to be a teacher, and she has a channel called Little Happy Learners, and she like teaches through play, basically, and she
Oh, cool.
creates different. She's a genius with cardboard and glue. Like, she just does all these amazing like creations and helps with like phonics and spelling and stuff. And she had a book which I shot, which was my first kind of craft book that I shot, which was, I just craft geeked over her like craft cupboard. I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've seen. And it was just so good to meet someone that was kind of passionate about the same things. And everyone else had gone home. We were shooting at her house, and the rest of the team had gone home, and I was just packing up my kit. And I just sort of mentioned it to her that I'd got this idea. And she was just so enthusiastic about it. She's like, right, I'm going to introduce you to my agent. So she introduced me to her literary agent, who now reps me. And it was just one of those things of just things falling into place. And I've got to say, I don't think I would be in this position without Sophie. Like, I am so grateful for her generosity in even introducing me to Daryl, because so many people would have just kept their mouth shut and been like, no, because you can't submit a proposal to a publisher without an agent. But it's really hard to get an agent if you've got no track record. So to have Sophie make that introduction and kind of vouch for me was amazing. And I really, really try to be open in that kind of thing. If people come to me asking for advice, or like, you know, what rate to charge, or how do you get into assisting, or, you know, any kind of advice like that, I always try to be as open as I can, because I just don't think it benefits anyone to be really cagey about it. And like, we're all just trying to make a living.
Yeah.
And, you know, we all have a common goal, and there's enough work out there for everyone. Like, you don't need to be super like cagey about it. And it's a tough enough job as it is without turning on each other as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm super grateful for Sophie for like encouraging me to take it out of a secret folder on my laptop and send it to someone else, because it worked out okay. So yeah, it frustrates me a bit when people just won't talk about anything to do with work, because I don't think it's beneficial in the long run.
No, I agree with you. And I think I definitely found, I've said this before, but like when I was working more down south, so in like Milton Keynes, Northampton way, and even Leicester to a point as well, there was people who were like, oh my God, I'm so busy, but I'm not going to tell you who with, or I'll pass you on any jobs or anything like that. And now up here, I'm like, right, I'm busy on that. Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this?
Yeah.
And there's a little crew of us that's actually expanding, and it's like, right, I can't do that, but can you fill in? I know you're good at that as well. Can you send that way? And I think that actually benefits you all as a whole, because also then likewise with rates, you all know that what rate you should be charging, because you're all on similar, and you also know the standard. But like we were saying before we recorded, the confidence of the younger generation is outstanding. I mean, I feel like I've got confidence with like how my skills can help somebody out. But now they're like, yeah, and I'm fabulous. And they flick their hair. And you're like,
yeah,
Jesus.
I feel like it's taken me 10 years to get to the point that this kind of generation of graduates, shall we say, coming into the industry are at now.
Yeah.
So I wish I had that confidence in myself. I'm getting ish to that point, but because I know I have 10 years of experience behind me, I think if I had come into the industry with that confidence, people would have just thought I was an utter dick, really. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. Sorry, my sister swear. I should be, be more ladylike. But yeah, I think, there's a thing of having confidence and having belief in your own ability, but also so much comes with experience.
Yeah.
And you have to do some real not horrible jobs, but you have to be some really crappy situations and work your way out of them. And it does, it teaches you a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think when you are fresh in the industry and everything's only gone right up until this point, when something does go wrong, it crushes you. So I think, there's no, I can't think of the word, but yeah, experience is where it's at, really.
Yeah.
And that just comes with time. You can't really rush it. So
I agree with you. And especially when you're freelance, you have to kind of put your different hats on. So one day you're an accountant because you're chasing the invoices.
yeah.
And then the next day you've got to fix your website. That happened to me. It literally took me 2 seconds and I sat on it for 3 months. And you're just you've got to put these different hats on, and you've got to like be ballsy sometimes as well, like
You do.
years ago I had somebody who owed me like quite a lot of money, and I remember walking into the studio, and I went to the studio manager's office with my laptop open with my bank account up.
Yeah.
I didn't even say morning I mean, ultimately I was a bit of a fucking dick, but I just went up to him and was just like, where's my money, mate? Like literally, where's my money? And he was like, this was on like another kind of 6 or 8 week long job. Oh, well, we'll, it should be with you. And I was like, that's not good enough. But you have
log into your banking now.
Yeah, transfer it. But I think you have to like have these things happen to you and be on the brink of being like, oh, fuck, what am I going to do?
Mm-hmm.
To all of a sudden grow these balls and just say it. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not like that anymore. But I think like you do have to kind of just... it just comes from learning like, right, okay, actually there's a better way to say, please can you pay me, than where's the fuck is my money.
I mean, I've just had a really big client go into administration.
Oof.
And they owed me for 2 full marketing campaigns, and they have been bought out, but nobody I worked with at the company is working there anymore.
Oh shit.
So I don't really have a way of contacting them. And I think if they've gone into administration and been bought out, I don't really know what the rules are of whether they have to pay suppliers and things like that.
Yeah.
And as a freelancer, I'm sure I'm very, very low down the list of priorities of people that will get paid. And so for me and my stress levels, I've written that money off. As painful as that is, and how I could really, really do with that money, and it's not an insignificant amount, I've had to just write it off and be like, what will be, will be. Whatever I get is a bonus, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas had that happened 5 years ago or so, I would have, had a meltdown about it and been like, how am I ever going to survive? And I kind of had a little bit of that. Like when you break it down of how many like months of mortgage it could pay, it's really, really depressing.
Yeah.
But also, again, it's completely out of my control. As much as I sit and stress about it, that won't make that money go into my bank account.
Yeah.
So for my own sanity, I just have to let the people that are in charge of that sort it out.
Yeah.
And hope that they know my email address, because I don't even know if there was a handover before everyone left.
Yeah.
So, it's just all... it comes with time and experience, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I think it just comes with like you say, time, experience, and with like seeing how other people's reactions are, and and also your boundaries. Like, you don't want to be fucked about, but also like there's a bit of give and take, because part of being freelance. But yeah, it's a funny one. I don't deal with stuff the same way. I'm the same as you. I don't deal with it the same way as I would have done 5-6 years ago, or even last year. Because I just think like life's too short to be like stressed and angry.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to be okay with being quiet, because I know ultimately then I'll be busy and be like annoyed that I haven't got any free time. So I need to just embrace when I am actually quiet, and just not get caught up in the culture of, well, the whole hustle culture and having to be really, really busy, because I know the reality, like, and even I know the absolute reality, but it still makes me feel like shit when I go on Instagram when I'm quiet and all these photographers are posting all these amazing things they're doing. I'm like, why am I doing blah, blah. But ultimately, they probably shot that 6 months ago and they're sat at home like, shit, I've got no work on.
Yeah.
I'd better post something on Instagram and make it look like I am. And like, you know, this whole stupid circle of making yourself look busy so people want to hire you. And like, I know it's rubbish. I know it's made up, but it still makes me feel like I'm not doing very well because I'm not shooting what they're shooting, whatever. But ultimately, when I am really busy, I don't think about doing behind the scenes pictures and doing stories of like when I'm shooting. I'm just shooting. So actually, when I'm busy, that's probably when I'm the quietest on social because I just don't think about doing it. So just releasing all my secrets now, that if you see me posting on Instagram, it's because I've got naff all to do.
I'm the same, mate.
That's
I'm
not
the
always
same.
the case. But, you know, it's just kind of, I wish it wasn't so glorified to be so busy that you're burnt out, because ultimately that's not a nice position to be in. If you were in a 9 to 5 job and you were so stressed out and you were working in the evenings because you had so much to do and, you know, it was making you miserable, that's not seen as a good thing.
Yeah.
But if you're a freelancer and you're like, yeah, I'm working 7 days a week, I stayed up till 2 doing my emails last night. That's not cool. That's not the life I want. I'm sorry. And I don't need to be working that much. Like I am happy to just work enough that I can comfortably pay my bills. Then I can maybe go out for dinner every now and then. Like I value my mental health for a start, and just enjoying my life, I think, more than having a flashy career and like shooting for McDonald's or, you know, whatever. I've just found with age that my priorities have massively shifted, and I actually don't really care if I'm considered a successful photographer.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Like if I'm known, if people know my name, I don't really mind. Like I don't really care either way, as long as I'm working enough to feed me and my dog. Like I'm kind of cool with it.
Yeah.
Which I know is such a privileged position to be in, to say like I only want to work as much as I need to. And I'm not saying I'm turning down jobs left, right, and centre because I just don't want to do them. But do you know what I mean? Like I'm trying not to stress myself out if I'm not batting away jobs every other day, because ultimately something will come along, and if it doesn't, I'll go and find another job. I have no other marketable skills, but you know, figure it out.
I feel the same though, and I think it might be age that I'm like happier with a slightly quieter life, because I used to work 7 days a week when I was back down south for pittance. Now looking back at it, put the graft in, and I think you go, actually I want that time with my partner. I want to, I don't know, go and eat out somewhere nice. Like, and also, what is success to you? Success is keeping my roof over my head, food in my belly, my dog fed, my husband fed as well. You know, can't leave him out. And like the odd tattoo and the odd holiday, that is fine. And I think that the pandemic has maybe slowed me down a little bit in that, in the sense that like, I'm like, actually, why am I jealous of this person who's busy all the time, because they don't have time to chill out.
And you don't know they're happy with that life.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you've glorified it in your mind because you think that it displays a certain level of success or whatever.
Yeah.
But they might be sat at home going, I have no free time. Like, I don't know who I am. I've got no free time. Or they could be someone that absolutely loves being super busy and that is their dream and they are super happy, and good for them. Like, you do you. But for me, I I know when I'm super stressed and I'm tired, my health suffers, my mental health suffers, and it affects all parts of my life, personal and professional. So I've just realised like so much stuff that I've worried about in the past just isn't worth it.
Yeah.
And actually, having boundaries ultimately is just so, and you might feel like you're being like, that you might be stopping some things from happening, or missing out on certain things, but ultimately having those boundaries is beneficial.
Yeah.
And that it generally makes everything else work a bit better. Like, I would rather have time at home to be able to like actually focus on, my marriage, and my friends and my family, than just be like constantly cancelling stuff because I'm working. Or so yeah, I think ultimately I could happily retire tomorrow.
yeah. Mate, that's
I think I'm quite. I think me and my husband, actually, we are made for a life of leisure.
yeah.
I think that's why he enjoys the whole like idea of a cruise, that he could just live a life of leisure for 100 days straight and just get drunk all day, and
Sounds like the dream.
Well, yeah. Whereas mine would just be like that. I just sit and craft all day. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Can you do that on a cruise ship? Will they let me take my sewing machine?
Maybe.
Might not be great on a rough sea day.
Yeah. You'd just be sorting out everybody's dresses.
Yeah.
In them all.
I've just become a little seamstress business on a cruise ship.
So, how did you get into your food photography? Because I actually don't know about how you got into that part of your career.
So I studied editorial and advertising photography at university, and when I did the course, it was very fashion focused, and very editorial. And although I knew that wasn't really my focus when I joined it, a lot of the other courses I looked at were very fine art based. And the course I did, to me, it felt more like you'd actually be able to get a job after it. It was more industry focused, and how you actually have a career as a photographer rather than just how to take nice pictures.
Yeah.
And so, while I was there, it was very editorial. I kind of got to second year and I was just waning with it. Like, I didn't love it. And I had a chat with my tutor, and she's basically like, well, what do you like doing? And at the time I was really into baking. And I was like, well, I really like cooking and stuff. She said, well, just shoot that. And it was just one of those things when someone needs to tell you the blindingly obvious.
Yeah.
And I think actually before that point, I hadn't really acknowledged that someone has to take the photos in Waitress magazine and things like that.
Yeah.
And for food packaging, I just not really considered it as a thing. So the next project after we'd had that chat was to make a book. And so I did a cookbook. And from then on, I just did food. But I was the only one on my course that did food.
Oh, cool.
I mean, Jonathan Gregson, who, if you're into food, is a massive food photographer, and he does, Waitrose and everything. And he's a graduate of our course. But I don't believe when he was at uni, he did food. I think he went on to do that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jonathan. I'm sure you're listening. But that wasn't a very strong focus of the course at all, that kind of genre. But now, since I graduated, I'm not saying I was a starting point for this, but it has got a lot more diverse in that people do cars and horses and a lot of food photographers, and it's become a lot more general, which is really good. But at the time, I did feel a bit weird for doing food because literally it was just me. So from that point on, just solidly focused on food. But I was at university in Cheltenham, and so it wasn't like I was in London and I had loads of food styling assistants that could come and test with me and things like that. So I just had to do the food styling myself and just, cobble it together myself. So from necessity, I had to teach myself to food style.
Yeah.
And also there weren't prop houses around, so I had to just go to Home Sense and buy as many cheap plates as I could afford on a student budget. And like I'd be painting different sets of like budget tongue and groove from B&Q in
Yeah.
different colours to have backgrounds, and I just had to make it work basically. And so I think actually that was quite a good setup to my career, in that I was able to cover all those disciplines, which is what has helped me now continue on and, you know, offer this kind of all-in service. So graduated from that. Whilst I was at uni, actually, I did an internship at The Guardian on their cook supplement, which I think is now called Feast. Because, again, the editor of that was a graduate of our course.
Oh, cool.
So it's a really good course, and there's so many graduates within the industry now that basically any genre you want to go in, there's alumni there. So, and it's kind of a really nice, tight-knit group of, you know, people will help out an ed and ag graduate kind of thing, like, yeah, come and assist me or whatever. So, yeah, I did a week at The Guardian, and they don't pay their interns, so they only let you come for a week at a time because they don't want to take the piss. So I did a week, and then I actually went, they asked me back again later on. I did another week, and as part of that I was doing like pulling in all the props for the shoots and things, and I would go on the shoots. So I got to know the photographer and some of the food stylists and stuff at work. So then when I graduated, I went and assisted the photographer at The Guardian again. And then through that, just chatting to everyone on set, prop stylists, food stylists, photographers, everything. And then slowly I sort of got recommended by different people, like a food stylist to be on a shoot and the photographer needed an assistant, and they'd be like, oh, here's Jen's number kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I just got into assisting like that. Did that for a few years. I have no idea how I made a living though, because I was being paid about £70 a day, and it cost me about £60 to get there and back.
Yeah.
So I don't know how. I was living in Cambridge as well. Like, Cambridge rent is ridiculous. So I don't. This is the thing though. Like, you worry, but you just make it work. Like,
Yeah.
generally, you know, you just eat noodles. So yeah, I did that for a few years, and then I actually got a job with Madeline Shaw, who's like a nutritionist influencer type thing. Sorry, that was a bad way of describing your profession, Madeline. But, you know, she does a lot on Instagram things, and I was hired as a photographer to do social media photography and recipe development and things like that. So I did that. And then I left there. What did I do after that? I think, so whilst there, I was freelance assisting and freelance shooting, and then I was 3 days with Madeline. And then I left there and just, you know, went fully kind of freelance.
Yeah.
And I've just been really lucky that I've had, in fact, my first ever quotation proper client I got, which, you know, that first job when you think they're basically paying you £1 million a day. Like, oh my God, this is like a proper job. I still work for them now.
Oh, that's cool.
So literally, I think, yeah, we've been working together 8 years now, I think, which is really nice. But yeah, I'm lucky to have like a nice core set of clients that I work for regularly. But yeah, it's just kind of built up word of mouth, and I do quite a lot of recipe development for social media people or brands. So yeah, it's a mix of photography and recipe development really, and then food styling always comes in at some point within all of that. So it's nice and varied really. It's kind of, I don't get bored. It's always really different. But yeah, that was my route in really. I had an unintentional like 5 years out before I went to uni, because I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I just thought there's no point going just to go and get a degree. And that was back in the days when it was kind of affordable.
Yeah.
I think now, I'm not sure how I feel about university education now, to be honest. Like, unless you want to go and be a doctor or an architect or something that needs a degree, I don't know how I feel about creative degrees anymore.
Yeah.
Because you're going to come out with 30 grand of debt.
Yeah.
Or more. I loved doing my degree, and I think it gave me that time to fully experiment and just have fun with it kind of thing. And I do think it was really beneficial in creating those contacts and me, like those initial steps to getting into the industry, which is really hard. But I don't know now if I was paying, what is it now, a year?
I don't even
Is it
know.
10 grand a year or something like that? Or is it more? I don't know. Anyway, more than when I went. I don't know if, I think especially photography, where you can literally, if as long as you can get that first someone to give you that shot, you can do it from assisting.
Yeah.
Obviously, you need to put the time in of learning the skill and the practice. Ultimately, the YouTube will teach you anything.
Yeah.
But there is no, again, I can't think of words.
I don't
Like
think.
the practice, the time, like you can't, university, it gives you that time. So as long as you're willing, if you're not going to go to uni, as long as you're willing to put in that time, that effort, and hone your skill, I don't think I mean, no one's ever asked me if I've got a degree.
Yeah.
Like, what I got in it. Like, no one cares. So yeah, and
Yeah.
that was massively off topic, but yeah, I think if it were today, I don't think I would go to uni.
Yeah. I actually agree with you. I didn't go because what I wanted to do was printmaking, and that wasn't cool. Like,
Yeah.
however many, let's not go there, nearly 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, what's cool now? Printmaking. Great. Cheers,
Yeah.
guys. But it was all like fine art or like mixed into other degrees. And
Yeah.
I chose not to go. And actually, that was probably one of my best decisions I made as a younger person, because I actually
Mm-hmm.
don't think that it would have helped me, because I maybe would have gone in. I got an A in graphic design at GCSE and didn't go that way. I went the fine art route,
Yeah.
and I could have got in anywhere with my BTEC or whatever it was, but I just thought, what's the point? What am I going to come out with? I'm going to come out with a degree, loads of debt, and be a teacher. Like, I didn't really know
Yeah.
what I'd actually do with it. And now I think, like you were just saying about honing your skills, I went off. I was in Zara in Cambridge for like
Mm-hmm.
3 years, visual merchandising, and
That's how we met, I suppose, isn't it? Because you were working with
yeah,
Joe at Zara.
yes,
Yeah.
that's probably it. And then we were
Yeah.
also all working at the pub as well, because we couldn't afford to just live off one job.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cambridge Rent.
Cambridge rent. I remember my room was like a single room, and it was £450 a month, and it had a
Which
single.
is cheap now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is back when we're talking like maybe I earn £1,000 a month, maybe if that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was. I mean, I learnt my skills a different way, and I think you're right. I think there's many different ways we can all come to the same skill set in the creative
Yeah.
industry. It's a bit like retouching, right? There's 200 different ways of doing exactly the same thing, but they all get you the same result. And I think
Yeah.
that's the same, with degrees. But I do,
Mm.
they are handy for some things, but I wonder what the degrees are like now, the courses are like, whether they're more commercial, because when I was going for it, they were all fine arty, like kind
Yeah.
of, I wouldn't say fluffy, because I don't think it's fluffy, but like
Not industry
not
focused.
industry focused.
Yeah.
And like actually people want the industry focus after, as they want to be able to get
Yeah.
into the industry. But
It's tricky
yeah,
because there's so much things uni can teach you, but equally they can't teach you what it's like to be on a set,
yeah,
and the way different people interact, and that as an assistant you're not really just going to be walking over to the client and saying, right, so what are we shooting next? Like,
yeah,
there's a dynamic, and there's a hierarchy to an extent. I mean, generally, I don't know what it's like in other industries, but in food it's pretty chill. Like, I haven't met an asshole yet. Like,
yeah,
everyone's been pretty nice. So it's never really like, you shouldn't be talking to, XYZ. But you know what I mean? Like, there's a way things work, and I think you can be told about that, but until you're actually on set, and you see how things work and how a brief develops and what happens when shit hits the fan. Like, there's no, you can't teach that in a classroom.
Yeah.
So I think even when you have got a degree, you still need that industry experience. So technically you could probably just skip the whole 40 grand debt, education system. But for me, because I had quite a gap between college and going to uni, I was running pubs with my awful ex-boyfriend, and I was just so out of any of that kind of industry that I did need that avenue to meet people and have any idea of having that kind of job. Like, even when I started that course, I didn't know what I was going to do.
Yeah.
I didn't like, and also the thing with that, like, the massive minority of us in that class have actually gone on to be photographers. There's people in production, retouchers, stylists, just across the whole industry. Whereas I don't think a lot of people would have joined that photography course in that September and gone, I'm going to be a production, whatever. Yeah. So I think it does open your eyes to what's possible within the industry and things like that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure if you have the confidence of a Gen Zer, you can probably just rock up somewhere and go, hi, I want to work here and get a job. So maybe it's just not needed now. University is dead.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I do think the experience, like you say, when you're on set, and I'm very similar, everybody's so chill on set because we're all very similar. We're all bouncing ideas off each other and, being quite silly because it's not that office.
I think also as well, there's like an understanding that we're not curing cancer. Like, ultimately our job is pretty weird and in the grand scheme of things so unimportant that everyone's just kind of happy to be there.
Yeah
And just like, okay, well, we're playing with cake today, this is fun. So yeah, I think ultimately no one's going to die if that cake shop doesn't work. And I think that probably brings a bit of relaxation to the vibe when you know that no one's going to come to any kind of ill fate through your work. But yeah, generally it's just a nice vibe.
Yeah.
What it's like in fashion, I imagine it's probably a bit more cutthroat.
To be honest, I do a lot
high fashion. Anyway.
Yeah, high fashion's probably a bit more like arsey. I don't know. I've never done it, so I wouldn't know.
But maybe that's just my Devil Wears Prada attitude towards it. I don't know, it might be lovely, but for me personally, I'd rather be on a food shoot.
Yeah. I'd rather be.
I'm nowhere near cool or fashionable enough to be anywhere near like a Vogue shoot.
No, because I'm giggling because I'm the
You can't snort on a Vogue shoot.
Oh dear. Oh well, yeah, I'm not fashionable enough to be on there because I'd just be snorting with laughter clearly. So,
but that is the way I want my job to be. I want to be able to snort with laughter during a shoot. Like, that's a sign of a happy life. So I'm cool with that.
Exactly.
I'll be the one over there in her, shit shoes, having a lovely time.
Me too. Me too.
I haven't joined you on the croc front yet, but I feel like I'm only a step away from croc territory.
Step right into the comfort of Crocs. Do it. I love them.
I've just jumped over to Birkenstocks. Well, not real Birkenstocks. They're like, I think they're fat face ones that I got off Vinted for £3.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm still at the point where they're killing my feet and I don't understand how they're comfortable, but I'm really trying to persevere.
Are you wearing them with socks? I
am at the moment because it's been freaking cold.
Yeah.
But it's the whole bit of the arch of the foot. I don't know whether I'm just too flat-footed for them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, they hurt my feet the first couple of times I wear them because my feet are a bit more flat-footed. And then I put them on, wear them on set on a concrete floored studio, and then get home and go, why do my hips and my back hurt? Because
Yeah.
I've been in hard shoes all day on a hard floor.
I used to do that with Converse. Working Converse is the
Oh,
worst thing ever.
yeah, I can't do it anymore.
You know you've hit your mid-30s when your footwear has such a massive impact on your personal
Yeah.
well-being. Oh, they're too flat
Yeah,
for me.
yeah.
I need something with a bit of a arch support.
This is it. I put my Vans on the other day, and they're the ones with the like slightly thicker sole. And I said to my other half, I just went, I can feel the floor through these. They're gone. They're gone. And a little tear fell down my cheek, and I was like, oh, I can't wear these to work anymore. It just,
Get yourself some fit flops or whatever
yeah.
those ones are. They're supposed to be good for your posture.
I need some buffalo trainers really with the concrete I'm on all the time, you know, really
I guess the problem
platform.
with me actually working from home is I'm just in slippers most of the time, which probably
Yeah.
aren't very supportive. But
No.
you know,
Oh, shoes.
good for my soul.
Yeah,
My
that's it.
SOUL.
Yeah, yeah. Not your foot.
Yeah.
One last question for you. What inspires you?
Oh God. In general life, or like create what I'm creating.
Both.
I guess it inspires me just to keep going. Is kind of what we've spoken about, of just creating a life I'm happy living. And so I guess sort of curating my career in a way that it incorporates the things that bring me joy.
Yeah.
So in this sort of conscious effort to move more towards craft and things like that, and not solely focus on food, which is still a source of joy, but I know I needed something else as well, and that's inspired me to kind of follow that journey and put myself out there and try and get a book deal and, you know, push that side of me. So I think, yeah, my inspiration for just keeping going is to just the fact that I'm really lucky to have a job like this that gives me the freedom to be able to spend time on the things I enjoy and to make my work not feel like work. Like it's hard work, but it's not a slog. Like I don't wake up in the morning and be like, oh, I've got to go to work. Like I'm always happy to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably what inspires me to keep going with it, rather than just being like, oh, I'm just going to get, you know, a salary job and then I don't have to worry about, you know, what work I've got coming in or anything. Because actually that is such a small price to pay for the benefits of being freelance and doing this kind of job, and a job that I love, that actually weathering those storms is just all part of it.
Yeah.
And as my dad says, worse things have happened at sea. Whenever something goes wrong, he just goes, worse things have happened at sea.
Yeah.
But it's true.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, things. I had on a shoot, my hard drive broke. It fell out my computer, literally like 20 centimetres from the ground. A lacy one, which is supposed to be indestructible, died, never turned on after that moment. And it was my main backup hard drive.
Oh, shit.
And I lost like a year's worth of jobs, and it was gutting. Like I was really, really, it was a low point.
Yeah.
And then I got home from the job, and I rang my mum, and I was like, this was the worst day ever, and blah, blah, blah. And then my dad came on the phone, and he went, well, I've had a bit of a bad week as well. And I said, oh, what's happening? He went, well, I had a stroke.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, you know what? You're right. Like, my hard drive is insignificant. Like, if you don't have your health and your happiness, it's nothing.
Yeah.
So it was as devastating as that news was. He's been okay from it, but it does put things into perspective. And, you know, I was devastated by this, that I'd lost all this work and stuff. But ultimately,
yeah,
it's worse things have happened at sea.
Yeah.
Or in this instance, in my parents' house. it's just the way he went, yeah, I've had a bit of a bad week as well. You should have led with this in the conversation, Dad, not let me go on for 45 minutes about my hard drive and how awful the repair guy was at the shop, like me moaning about what an idiot he was, and Dad's like, oh, I've had a stroke. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Oh my God. Dad's...
Yeah, I think you need a healthy dose of perspective in this job, I think. And because, yeah, I mean, I'm not downplaying that it's hard being freelance, and especially with things like COVID, and there's so many curveball stuff that gets thrown at you. But I honestly do, like, I wouldn't trade it. I couldn't go and do a #normal job anymore. I mean, the last probably normal job I did, I was making tiaras. And I actually, looking back at it, think that's probably my favourite job I've ever done, which actually has been a bit of a full circle thing, because I was thinking, like, what jobs have I done that I've actually, loved? And it was when I was 18 making tiaras in this little factory by chicken sheds that always smelled of chicken poo. But I was making things with my hands, and it was my favourite job. And so I kind of thought, well, how do I make that my job now?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I've done. So maybe my whole life has just been about that chicken shed tiara factory. That's what's led me. That's my inspiration. That was where I started. But yeah, that's probably my last, hourly paid job, like, where I had a boss.
Yeah.
And now I'm my own boss, which is good and bad, because I'm not very good at admin, shall we say, in general. And I think I could probably do with a PR team to actually, like, tell people what I do, because I'm not very good at doing that myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope this whole conversation hasn't ruined my chances of getting work again. I just sound like I'm like, fuck, I don't want to work, but no. That is not it at all. I love my work, but I appreciate that there is more to life, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think on that lovely note, I think we'll end there. And what's your dad saying again? The worst things
that happen at sea.
There we go, everybody. Worst things happen at sea.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
I'll be dead proud that that's made it in. He'll feel like he's taught me something. Oh, that was my chair again. I need to stop moving. Or get a spanner. Maybe I'll go and tighten that now. That can be my job for this weekend.
Well, thank you so much for agreeing to come on. I have thoroughly enjoyed myself, and I don't think I've ever snorted on the podcast before, so that's a first.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a great achievement for me.
Yeah. Right, I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please rate, follow and share, as it really helps this little podcast out. And if you have found value in the podcast and you have the means to, I do have a Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes. This will help keep the podcast going. Join me next week for another fantastic guest. Bye!